file. Many thanks for staying with us. Welcome to the program. We begin with a look at the TCAD Summit in Tokyo. The Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, says the 7th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TCAD 7, availed the Gambian delegation the opportunity to interact with potential Japanese development partners and investors on how to propel the development agenda of the Gambia government. Areas such as science and technology, health, agriculture, sport, and trade were some of the key sectors Vice President Toure and the entourage discussed with Japanese government officials and other private investors. Our Fatima Cisse sat down with the Vice President in Japan and began by asking her what could Gambia benefit from such cooperation.
I think it is very important to realize that TCAD has come to empower Africa as a whole, and the specificities should come from the different countries, because if you look at the title, it talks about advancing Africa's development through people, technology, and innovation. And of course, Africa is at the cross capital development. The 3 pillars of TCAD is on accelerating economic transformation and improving business environment through innovation and private sector engagement, and definitely Gambia is one of Gambia's priority areas. The second pillar is the deepening sustainable and resilient society, and third one is strengthening peace and stability. And I think Gambia is caught up in the 3 pillars, and definitely we are working closely with Japan on that. It is important to Gambia because we will be able to prioritize. We have worked with Japan under the project of JICA, which is the Japanese International Development Corporation, and they have supported the Gambia in various ways since the engagement. We have the rural water supply that has been on for quite some time, and this has benefited many communities. And the first was implemented from between 1991 to 1994. Since then, it has been phenomenally increasing. 22 new solar power systems in 4 administrative regions, impacting on 60,000 people have been there. Is support for the fisheries sector. And under the fisheries sector, the Gambia has a big role to play in that, because many people were benefiting in the local fishing communities through provision of improved fish handling and processing facilities, mainly high tonnage ice plants, insulated vehicles, fish smoking ovens, drying platforms, and construction of a fish jetty at the port of Banjul. We also had food aid. I think just recently you have heard Japanese food aid, rice in the form of rice that is brought to communities and actually distributed. So I think this opportunity is about coming to see what Japan has for Africa, but what Africa also can request from Japan, and what can Japan also get from Africa in terms of partnerships and bringing in cultural diversity, bringing in our different experiences and so on. The Gambia is by coming together with Japan because of the technological stride that Japan has made. And currently the new Gambia is all about that. The government of His Excellency President Adama Barrow is very much interested in advancing human capital, promoting rule of law, and respecting human rights, and also strengthening the institutions and building the capacity of the population to be able to respond to the needs and aspirations of the new Gambia. I'm coming back home very optimistic. I'm coming up home with energy and enthusiasm, and I hope that we will be able to capture and make use of all the things that we have discussed here and learn from the best practices that the Gambia looks forward to. We are very proud of this change, very proud of the new democracy, and the whole world is watching us. We are a model.
Japanese-Africa Cooperation, the TCAD 7 meeting there. Now, meanwhile, the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, earlier today met with the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe at his office in Tokyo. Vice President Toure and Prime Minister Abe outlined possible areas of cooperation between the Gambia and Japan. The two leaders discussed strategies that would strengthen the already established Japanese projects and programs in the Gambia, such as JICA, Vice President Toure also tabled a $16 million proposal before the Prime Minister earmarked to finance the Phase 4 of the JICA project, which supports access to clean drinking water in rural Gambia. Prime Minister Abe reaffirmed his government's readiness in partnering with the Gambia government in boosting the already existing ties between the two countries. The Abe further said Japan has plans to build the human resource of the Gambia. He called on the Gambia government to support Japan's strides in attaining seats at the United Nations Security Council. In the same vein, Vice President Toure also held closed-door meetings with hosts of Gambian Olympic participants in the Morochuchi city in Japan and President Macky Sall of Senegal. Now, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Fisheries and Water Resources, Dr. Bamba Banja, has underscored government's commitment to combat the illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing in Gambian waters. He said mechanisms have been put in place to ensure the sustainable management of the country's marine resources. Dr. Banja made the remarks on Saturday at the close of a 3-day capacity building program on the strengthening of data collection and information systems for artisanal and industrial fishing officers. Usman Mane brings us up to date.
The pelagic fish is mostly found in the West African region, and its presence in the fishing landing sites in the Gambia stood at 75% according to officials. These fish species continue to face immense pressure to protect and conserve these pelagic fish. There should be accurate data to know the stock in the 4 West African countries, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, Mauritania, and the Gambia, where the digitalization process is being implemented. The training of these 15 fisheries data collectors, organized by the Fisheries Department and supported by the Mava Foundation, brought together will go a long way to have the record of a pelagic fish at national and regional levels. Dr. Banja is the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Fisheries and Water Resources. He highlighted some of the measures to protect and manage these marine resources.
The Ministry of Fisheries, in collaboration with other key stakeholders, have for more than 2 years introduced a 6-month temporary ban on night fishing. Why do we do that? Because we want to reduce pressure on the small pelagic resources. We know that species like Sardinella, from egg to recruitment, within 6 months, you should be able to have Sardinella fit for the table. We collaborate with NASCOM in the implementation of the core management plan to ensure by the European Union called PESCAO. This project is contributing towards strengthening the capacity of the officials, but also working together, the member countries working together in conducting joint research, joint exercises, so that fishing operators that are fishing in our waters and are not using the right and appropriated mesh sizes, or fishing in the wrong zone, or fishing without licensing, are penalized. So actually it is a global problem, and we are not going to relent. At the national level, the Ministry of Fisheries is supporting the Navy. Already we are into negotiation, and we have got cabinet approval to single source the procurement of a fisheries inspection vessel and the rehabilitation of the Banjul shipyard. This vessel is very, very important. Once we have it, we will provide it to the Navy. We will also develop the capacity of the Navy officers, including Fisheries Department personnel, in ensuring that we have the means to adequately monitor and police our waters.
Now there you name the single biggest challenge facing the fisheries sector? Monitoring. It has been a challenge across African countries. We know across West Africa, countries have been signing deals with fishing companies and major industrial players. But monitoring has been a major challenge. This inadequacy continues to challenge this sector. Now, at the local level, what has been done to raise awareness among fisherfolk?
We believe using a tool in managing our natural resources. And what is that tool? Is what we call co-management.
Co-management.
Where government, together with our development partners, the communities and fisheries institutions will come together to manage the resources. Because as a sector, we cannot do it alone. Look, we are talking of a very, very important sector. I always tell Gambians, fisheries is a very important sector and it requires collective responsibility to manage it in order to continuously benefit Gambians. And this is one of the, number one policy objective of government, really, to ensure the sustainable and rational utilization of fisheries resources on a sustainable basis.
Now, speaking of sustainability, we have had seen development of the Gambia's relationship with the European Union, which is one of the key partners of the fisheries sector.
Yes.
We know you guys signed a deal in 2018. I don't know whether the deal still stands, but it brings the European Union to the Gambia in a big way. The agreement also includes partnerships to engage in support programs as well as monitoring and the protection of the country's fisheries resources. How much benefit is this bringing to the country?
Actually, you are right. We have signed this agreement in October 2018. It went through a process. Now we are at the final stage. We have provided the European Union with all the necessary information. Now what remains is for them to transfer the funds to the Gambia. We are going to have two different sources of funding. The first source is for sectoral support.
Sectoral support.
To support the fisheries sector. The other one will go to government. That's compensation for access. One thing that we have to understand, this agreement is based on two species, the tuna and the hake.
Yes.
Gambians should understand that. And it is an agreement, honestly, that is a win-win situation. Right now, we are busy implementing the activities that will help us achieve the goals set for the sector in the National Development Plan. But with this sectoral support that we are going to have annually from the European Union, we will be able to combat IUU. We will be able to strengthen fisheries organizations throughout the country. We will be able to provide them with facilities that will help them in their activities, facilities that will improve the handling, processing, and storage of fisheries products. Mark you, we are talking here of a product that is highly perishable.
It's perishable.
Highly perishable.
So there's a strong partnership, and now it's the EU's turn to come on board.
Yes, hopefully by we will be having European Union vessels fishing for tuna and hake
in Gambian
waters and beyond, really, because one characteristic feature about the tuna fish is that it's highly migratory and is seasonal. It's not every time that it's available in our waters.
And it could be threatened by overfishing and illegal fishing, of course.
Well, for this one, really, no, because we have set targets with the European Union. Once the target is achieved, we will be informed, they will be informed, because we'll be getting records of the data on the catch.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bamba Bamba. I'd very much like us to continue this conversation, very important on the protection of our fisheries resources, but time is not on our side. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsfile. Now, in other news, the Ministry of Women, Children and Social Welfare is currently on a retreat to take stock of progress made since the establishment of the ministry, and as well develop a roadmap for the implementation and execution of activities. Fatu Elika Mulusi was in Kanila with the team and now tells us more.
The retreat is the second of its kind since the establishment of the new Ministry of Women, Children and Social Welfare in February this year. Officials say the convergence, which will last for 3 days, is meant to identify challenges and strengthen collaboration between the ministry and partners. The permanent secretary explains the importance of proper planning and teamwork in solving issues affecting women and children in the Gambia, while also highlighting progress made by the ministry so far.
We can never get a proper delivery without proper planning. It is in proper planning that we stand a chance to develop success from our failures. The government of the day has made breakthroughs in some areas of operation already despite the economic challenges the country faces. I am happy to say that we have observed improving confidence in the budget, and staff confidence and morale is very high in our sector.
While building on complementary strengths is crucial in the drive to attain the Sustainable Development Goals in line with the National Development Plan, the Ministry of Women, Children and Social Welfare, Fatu Kinte, says the retreat is fundamental in helping the ministry properly plan for the next quarter and converse directly with stakeholders.
In the last quarter, we developed milestones. This retreat will give us the opportunity of reporting on those milestones and then also to plan other milestones for ourselves for the coming quarter. We are at the time of government budgeting for 2020. In this retreat this weekend, we'll also discuss our budgets for 2020, and we'll also try to see how we can help each other in terms of recommendations to improve on our budgets.
Participants from the Women's Bureau and the Department of Social Welfare explained the importance of coming together at a moment when the welfare of women and children is of great importance in building a prosperous nation.
The Department of Social Welfare was operating under the Ministry of Health, and the Women's Bureau was also operating under the Office of the Vice President. So bringing these two departments together, having a new ministry, it was important for us to take stock of what existing programs that were going on, and of course look at the challenges, and of course the way forward.
We have sort of like proposed or even have been given more budget allocation, and we hope that we'll be able to, the ministry will be able to even do more things and even more for persons with disabilities once this budget is is really being used.
The retreat is very vital and instrumental because it will help us to properly plan the way forward to enhance and improve the status of women and children. And it also helps the ministry and its line departments to come together as a family and to know what each and everyone is doing so as to complement each other's efforts.
The ministry now plans to have similar retreats at the end of every quarter in one region to have a feel of what's happening at grassroots and interact effectively with relevant stakeholders, which will serve as a monitoring tool for effective delivery. For Grts News, I am Fatu Elika Mulusi.
Now, residents of Medina Jiki in the Central River region on Thursday woke up to a shocking view of 15 cattle mysteriously killed in a farm on the outskirts of the village. As our CRR correspondent Modu Bajan tells us, the police and other security agents are investigating what they suspect to be a highly organized and unusual.
15 or so kilometers from Bansang. Here it is very important that people have animals, including cattle. And as one can see in the background here, we are seeing 15 animals dead just overnight. There is a very high possibility of the animals being tampered with probably a sub material, or so, as there is blood in almost all the animals lying dead. Alaji Kemo Kante, how did you come to know about the mass death of these animals?
It was this early morning around 6:30. I received a call from our assistant, the vice president. This morning they discovered that 15 heads of cattle were being slaughtered. So when he called me, he said, let me report immediately to the Bansang police station. They were either being slaughtered by a very sharp material. Now, no gun has been used. This is used, a sharp material has been used, and the person must know something about cattling.
Mr. Barufa is from the Department of Livestock Services. Earlier on, we saw you trying to look like you checking out the blood issues also in the places where it is suspected that these animals have been stabbed. What are you doing right now?
Yeah, now we are just trying to find out whether these animals have eaten a poisonous substances or something else.
And why are you suspecting that type of poisonous thing?
Because we are seeing some discharges coming out from the nose, from the mouth, or from the openings anyway.
When we came here, we saw the animals' stomach were looking like very much swollen. Is that very normal?
It's due to conditions in which the animals were suffocating. I know the stomach must have absorbed some air.
It may be very early perhaps to establish the circumstances which led to their death, if at all they've been poisoned. But what do you think has been into play?
To say the actual thing would be difficult, because we have seen at the back of the head is something like, they are stamped either by a heavy object or a sharp object.
Commenting on the matter, the owner of the killed animals, Samba Balde, said it is a great loss to his entire family. Balde and other cattle breeders as such appealed for government or other interventions so as to cope with the loss alongside more security in the area.
Ibrahim O. Jallo, President of the National Livestock Owners Association of the Gambia, asked the police suspect that this must have been done by intruders or bandits from the vicinity. What does it mean to the National Livestock Owners Association?
We believe that these animals are killed in the heart, but who did it, we don't know. And then actually, we are all discouraged and we feel very bad about it, because this is the first time since such an event, such a criminal act. And then in the CRR South, just recently, we recovered almost 42 animals around Makakoli Bantang. And those animals came just less than 42 hours that such things happen again. So we don't know actually whether it's the same people. So it's the issue that we are calling on the government to help us to find out, to mount a very serious investigation on such things like this. Because somebody who can kill animal like this can also kill people.
Mr. Kante, any final note as to cattle rustling?
Well, we can only appeal to government as a body that let them make sure that securities have been scattered so that cattle and other things are safe.
From the Department of Livestock Services and as well as the security in the area, work is still underway to see what actually took place, be it bandits also to apprehend them. We are just hoping that information will be given as we get it. I am Modu Bajan reporting from Madina Jiki.
Indeed. Now, delegates from China and across Africa on Tuesday wrapped up a two-day meeting of the China-Africa Think Tank Forum. The meeting held in the Chinese capital of Beijing was meant to discuss strategic actions for the implementation of the outcome of the last Forum on China-Africa cooperation. The meeting also featured advocacy for a constructive media practice to report issues from the perspective of China and Africa. From Beijing, our correspondent Ibrahim Jallo tells us more.
The forum focuses on what officials describe as the need to build a community with a shared future between China and Africa. It also seeks to coordinate building the Belt and Road with the African Union 2063 agenda. Delegates also raised the need for increased communication and cooperation between China and African media and to strengthen the discourse power between the African continent and the Asian nation. The Assistant Minister at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China, Sheng Xiaodong, said his country has proven to be a reliable partner with Africa and will continue to provide technical and financial support for Africa's development. He, however, urged both sides to think critically and paint a positive image of their countries. The AU envoy to China, Rahmatullah Mohammed Usman, said the Belt and Road Initiative has benefited many African countries in line with the AU 2063 agenda.
This consensus is evident not only in the government at the government level, but also at the level of African research centers and universities, which have praised the Belt and Road in their research and have been invited to participate in this initiative.
The need for knowledge and experience sharing, as well as communities and institutional dialogue, especially the media, were also discussed. The Director of Television Programs at the Gambia Radio and Television Services, Fatou Sane Sise, spoke of the need for a common media platform and mutual exchanges to achieve the desired goals.
The media is the only platform. All that we're discussing here If it is not communicated outside, the people affected will not be able to understand. So whatever concept we come up with, you need to communicate effectively and disseminate information. So therefore, the media is very important. Chinese and African media should always think outside the box to report the potential and development realities of the two sides.
The meeting is meant to amplify actions to fully implement the focal follow-up results to be able to achieve a common destiny between China and Africa. One of the subjects of discussion during the meeting has been the need for China and Africa to change the narratives and tell their own stories to the global audience. Ibrahim Diallo, GRTS News, Beijing.
Now, businessmen who deal in different crops from rural Gambia and other parts of the sub-region sell most of their goods at the Sarakunda market. Our GRTS's Khadijatu Jala was out and about at the country's busiest market to see the supply of fresh groundnut harvest at this time of the year.
Backbone of the Gambia's economy, particularly groundnut, which is a key parameter of the country's national GDP. However, increase on agricultural production remains a challenge because cultivation is still dominated by a primitive farming system which likely depends on rain-fed crops of climate change. At this time of the year, when the rainy season has just started to gain momentum in the Gambia, the market is expected to be dominated with last year's groundnuts, which is well stored to provide demand for consumers. Crisscrossing the Sandika, fresh groundnuts is on display for sale. Abubakar Kamara and some other vendors explain that the groundnuts are imported from Senegal.
At this time of the year, we do have fresh corn and early granules in the market, but because of the late starts of the rain, very few is available in the market. These fresh granules available in the market are from Senegal, whilst others are from other parts of the region, like Burkina Faso and Ivory Coast, brought by businessmen.
Kamara commended the ECOWAS bloc for improving on the free movement of goods and people that promotes trade within the sub-region. He further explains that being aware of health hazards and their cordial relations with public health officials, Kamara said they employ the services of women to ensure that the groundnuts are clean and free from aflatoxin. The supply of groundnut in the market did not only provide the consumption needs of consumers, but creates employment in the value chain process. For Fatou Gay, like other women in the Sandika, their livelihood depends on this groundnut, as they come from far to offer their services by cleaning it, even though the pay is not much compared to other businesses. At Sandika, groundnut is processed, baked, grinded into peanut butter processing, amongst others. Consumers and retailers of groundnuts interact with vendors in this market. We caught up with Sefu Silla.
I'm a fan of groundnut, really. So, like this one, the raw one here, three cups. You know, when I get home, then I have to roast it. Absolutely. Groundnut is all right, really.
For Silla, like many other Gambians, groundnut is highly consumed in the country. In order to meet the demand of the public, there is need for government to invest and improve the farming techniques in the country. Khadijatu Jallow, reporting for GRTS News.
This is News 5 live from Banjul, still to come. Gambia's athletic sensation Gina Bass is Africa's new 200 meters champion after winning gold at the African Games in Morocco. And Sudan's ex-president Omar al-Bashir has been questioned in court for the first time as the trial of the 75-year-old enters its third week. And exposing migrants to more vulnerabilities, Libya's government says the UN has stopped its migrant repatriation efforts 7 years since the country's plunged into crisis. We'll be back with more news shortly. Stay with us.
Zone is a 160-hectare mixed Business Park, strategically located within the boundaries of Banjul International Airport, the Gambia. It is the only economic zone located within an airport in West Africa. Gaitaf Special Economic Zone is segmented into 4 separate zones: Commercial Zone, Industrial and Light Logistics and Warehousing, Residential Zone. It is a highly secured economic zone with top-notch infrastructure, with eco-friendly buildings and beautiful landscaping. With attractive incentives and access to a pool of labor within the Gambia and the sub-region, the Gaitaf Special Economic Zone has already completed warehouses available to investors. Located less than 30 minutes away from the international seaport of Banjul, investors in the Special Economic Zone will enjoy a unique proximity to major markets around the world, including Africa, Europe, America, and Asia. For additional information, please visit www.gaitaf.com.
Fabakar bari be campagne bakal bi ko bitu yaje de fanol befer nori ngakuro di bintala binta ko fonga sofi sabule demal asenuma ani atari yaring sabu sofi doronne yono imaje sofi la safuno kukuto letide asila fano lukoi ima fete fete sofi la safuno sero be diaring adabe sone yari asila fano lukoi ima fete fete sofi la safuno yonta le mati wara mal bejele domande ulu bejele asila kuri fengu lukoi ima fete fete isa soto no le bitiko lubeto asila fano lukoi ima fete fete sabu sofi nyontanga le mati.
The Gaitaf Special Economic Zone is a 106.
Welcome back. In sport, Gambia's sprinting sensation Gina Bass has secured gold for the country after a stunning run to the finish line in the 200 meters race at the Africa Games in Rabat, Morocco. It has been a remarkable few days for the Gambian queen of the tracks after finishing second in the 100 meters race earlier this week. And now, Gina adds gold to her numerous collections of personal awards.
It was joy for the Gambia at the African Games in Morocco as the country's sprint sensation, Gina Bass, won the women's 200 meters final in grand style to claim the gold medal. And for the second time, the national anthem of the Gambia reverberated inside the stadium at the African Games as Gina mounted the podium to receive her gold medal, confirming her status among the all-time greats of Gambian sports by becoming the first Gambian athlete to win a gold medal at the African Games. Gina fend off stiff competition from Africa's top female sprinters to finish first, beating Marie-Josée Talou of the Côte d'Ivoire, and Africa's fastest female sprinter, to the gold medal. The beauty about Gina's historic triumph in the 200 meters was that she defeated Marie-Josée Talou, the best on the continent, who beat her to the gold medal in the 100 meters 4 days back. And in claiming gold in the 200 meters, Gina set a new national record of 22.58 seconds.
I was really grateful, but it was not an easy task.
How do you feel as a Gambian getting the gold medal for the country that have been struggling in sports?
I was really grateful and I'm thankful to God because He's the one who gave it to me. So I'm really happy.
جينا باس الكوت ديفوار وغامبيا من تفوز بالميداليه الذهبيه لإيفواريا في المركز الاول.
It's double joy for the 24-year-old sprinter from the small village of Tubakuta in the East Combo district by winning silver in the 100 meters and gold in the 200 meters at the 12th African Games in Rabat, Morocco. And it was a great feeling for the queen of Gambian athletics to reign supreme in Africa.
It's all about training and believing in yourself. If you believe in yourself, you can do it. And with God's help, everything is possible.
After conquering the continent, the global stage awaits Gina at the World Championship in Doha, Qatar later this year. But for now, it's a moment to celebrate Gina's heroic performance by making the Gambia proud at the Continental Games. And a heroic welcome awaits the queen of the tracks. Modest Jallo, Grts Sports.
Stunning run to the finish line indeed. Congrats to Gina Bass. Now we'll take another break. International news is up next. Stay with us.
Hey, Abi, why only help? Sama bopp bi ma fi newu sama tànn béer ba jaara soma ba tey gars yi ngi seet nu ma joxe sama avance bi mënu ma say jot.
waaye yéen xanaa xamu leen Afri Money.
Afri lan.
ak sa Africell line bi mun ngaa jot wala ñu yónnee la xaalis foo munti nekk si Gambia bi.
moom neex na
te des na sax ak sa Afri Money service mun ngaa jënd cash power ba lu toll si $7,000 wala sax nga jënd si sa crédit yokk sa bonus.
ci Africell.
To news beyond our borders, the trial of Sudan's ex-president Omar al-Bashir is about to enter its third week. The 75-year-old former leader has now been questioned in court for the very first time. CGTN's Jane Kio has more.
Sudanese court has formally indicted the former leader Omar al-Bashir on charges of corruption and possessing illicit foreign currency. Questioned in court for the first time, Bashir said he had received $25 million from the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, as well as funds from other sources. But he added that the money was not received or used for his own benefit.
We did not supply the money to the Bank of Sudan because we meant to hide the source, and we did so because this was the desire of the prince. I had hoped that this would have been a secret court in order not to show the name of the prince. He did not want his name to appear anywhere, which is why he sent the money on a private plane with a private envoy. This was his wish, for it not to be known.
One of Bashir's lawyers has said the former leader denies the charges against him and that witnesses for the defense would be presented at the next hearing. Nevertheless, a judge has denied bail for Bashir and says that the duration of his detention will be addressed at a hearing on the 7th of September.
The evidence provided by the seizure of the foreign currency in the possession of the accused and the codification of the judicial recognition of possession and disposition justifies the continuation of the proceedings until proving their origin and their usage in accordance with the provisions of the law and laws that determine those actions. For these reasons, we've decided to deny the bail request and to keep the accused in custody for the purpose of the trial.
Sudan's military ousted Omar al-Bashir in April after months of nationwide protests. In May, Bashir was also charged with incitement and involvement in the killing of protesters. His trial is seen as a test of how far the new joint civilian-military authority will go to counter the legacy of his 30-year rule. Jane Keo, CGTN, a Sudanese court.
Now, Libya's government of national accord says the UN has stopped its migrant repatriation effort. Libya has been struggling with a migrant crisis since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2012. Despite its struggling economy, the North African nation has been providing humanitarian support, putting more pressure on its tight budget. Here is CGTN's Abdel El Makrouki with more.
Minister of Interior says the UN ceased supporting programs which bring migrants stranded in Libya back to their countries. With Europe taking a major step back in receiving migrants, Libya appears to be stuck with hundreds of thousands of migrants.
Libya is not alone. It is divided and confused. There is a European conflict between France, Italy and England, represented in the support of Fayez al-Sarraj in the west and Khalifa Haftar in the east. There is no government that controls the entire nation. That's why migrant control is not effective. Libya is in a crisis and Europe doesn't know who to support. It's only pushing migrant ships back to Libya.
Libya's eastern neighbor, Egypt, has been helping out. it has significantly cut the influx of illegal migrants into Libya from its borders. Cairo has also been trying to move stagnant African support in that file.
Egypt is helping Libya by monitoring their joint border, by training the LNA forces and by sharing intelligence information. Egypt has massive control over the water and land border between them. It is concerned with illegal migration, but it cares more about the entrance of extremist militants into Egypt. It's why it has prioritized that file in the African Union as it chairs it this year.
International support to migrants in Libya has been diminishing thanks to the ongoing war over Tripoli. There are thousands of migrants held in detention centers there. Libya has an estimated 800,000 Africans waiting to get asylum or refuge in Europe.
With Europe pushing them back and the UN seizing its support repatriation programs, migrants remain stranded in Libya and no safe passage to go back home. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Live from Banjul, this is Newsfile. A recap of our top stories tonight. Before we go, Vice President Dr. Aissatou Touré hails the 7th Tokyo International Conference on African Development as a major success as he holds talks with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Countering illegal fishing in Gambian waters, the Ministry of Fisheries takes new measures to protect the country's marine resources. Shock and wonder in Central River region as residents of Medina Jiki wake up to a shocking view of 15 dead cattle mysteriously killed overnight. And the Gambia's athletic sensation Gina Bass is Africa's new 200 meters champion after winning gold at the African Games in Morocco. Plus, Sudan's ex-president Omar al-Bashir has been questioned in court for the first time as the trial of the 75-year-old enters its third week. Exposing migrants to more vulnerabilities, Libya's government says the UN has stopped its migrant repatriation efforts 7 years since the country plunged into crisis. That's all in this edition of Newsfile. Thanks for watching, and join us again at 10 for more news and the latest updates.
The Gambia will soon welcome its first large-scale renewable power plant, increasing the Gambia's electricity supply by 50 megawatts, or close to 15% of current capacity, which will integrate into NAWEC's power system.